Welcome back to Objective 5 of Chapter 2 in our 3B1 series. In this objective, we're going to describe typical designs, components and operating strategies for refuse boilers used in waste disposal. So the area of waste disposal is a bit of a fascinating one with regards to power engineering, as Canada is very much behind the ball with regards to refuse for energy. And in recent years, there's a plant opened up in Edmonton by a company called Inconel that are getting on board with this idea that as a human race, we produce that much garbage, we might as well use it to produce energy and get other useful products from it. So as a little bit of an introduction to this objective, to let you know what's happening in this sort of area of our industry, let's check out this short little video from this company quite locally to here in Edmonton to see what they're doing with the refuse.
Imagine harnessing the value of non-recyclable solid waste by transforming it into renewable chemicals and low-carbon transportation fuels. Here is Enerchem's proposition. Enerchem's patented chemical recycling process converts carbon-rich residues, such as municipal solid waste, into a synthetic gas. Once cleaned and conditioned, this gas is converted into biofuels and renewable chemicals. These products can then be used directly or to make numerous goods, such as plastics, glues, paints, textiles, and coatings. Enerchem combines its technology with its award-winning team of experts to deliver a competitive solution. How does it work? It uses the most inexpensive feedstock, garbage that is already collected and abundantly available. A smart alternative to incineration and landfilling that is complementary to recycling and composting. An efficient way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and dependence on fossil energy. Enerchem can build and operate plants as turnkey projects. It can also form joint ventures with partners and industrial leaders to license its technology, provide modularized equipment, and handle assembly on site. The company's modular and scalable manufacturing approach ensures that Enerchem's biorefineries can be deployed globally quickly and efficiently. Enerchem can help you develop the economy of tomorrow. A circular economy based on innovation, where waste is no longer seen as a problem, but as a resource to make sustainable products.
So fascinating stuff there from the video to see what they're doing locally with regards to reusing the garbage and turning it into a saleable product. Now, in this objective, we're going to take a look at burning the garbage to release the heat that it contains and use that heat to boil water. Water, of course, turns into steam, and then that steam could drive a steam turbine and produce electricity. Now, this is what Sweden have been doing for years, and they're actually the world leader in this sort of niche area of our industry. And Sweden is so good at it that they've actually run out of garbage that their own people produce, so they actually have to import it from Norway to keep up with the demand. So absolutely fantastic. And of course, none of this has to get buried in the ground in a landfill, which of course is no good to the environment, as it's going to leach into the ground over many years to come. So fascinating stuff. Now, there are two ways in which we're going to take a look at how our garbage is burned. That is, first, mass burning, and two, RDF, which stands for refuse derived fuel. Now, the photograph bottom right is of a mass burning pit. And here you can see that basically the trucks back up to the pit, they dump off their loads into the pit, and then you get a mass of garbage now that is only going to receive very little preparation. And the preparation is typically going to be that a large magnet will pass over it and pick out any large metallic ferrous metals. And that's really it. The rest of it will then be picked up by a bucket, and then that will be dropped into our furnace and it will be burned. The second method, RDF, refuse-derived fuel, is the same idea, only much greater preparation is done with regards to screening of the fuel prior to burning in our furnace. So let's take a look at both of these. So our first one is our mass burning system, and we can see this from figure 25 on page 23 in your textbook. So here the truck backs up to the refuse pit, unloads and dumps all of its garbage down into that pit. From here, a large magnet typically is going to pass over the garbage and pick out any large metallic objects that are obviously ferrous metals. That's pretty much the only preparation this garbage will go through. Then, a great big large bucket will pick up the garbage and drop it into the feed hopper, which will then pass down and into the boiler furnace. Now notice that the bottom of the furnace here is on an angle as it uses what's known as a reciprocating grate furnace. And the easiest way to think about it is imagine a staircase, and now imagine the individual steps on the staircase go up and down all on their own independently from each other. So as this occurs inside of our furnace with these reciprocating steps, the garbage passes down one step to the next as it combusts. And then by the time it gets to the bottom right of our furnace, as diagrammed, it is then removed as ash for ash removal. Now, unfortunately, that ash removal does have to go into a landfill, but there'll be much less of it as opposed to the garbage. And of course, all of the useful combustible products will have been combusted. The ash is simply the non-combustibles that remain behind. The rest of the boiler then is fairly standard in that the heat released will pass up through the radiant section, over our water walls, into the convective section, and over to our remaining heat exchanger devices to produce high pressure steam. So pretty straightforward idea. Just be aware, however, that in these particular furnaces, typically the lower 1/3 of the furnace will contain a refractory lining that's over the water walls. Now that's very different to what's in a normal water tube, or I should say a water wall furnace. The refractory, virtually there is none, but what there is of it will be behind the water wall. And it will typically be like a refractory blanket, not a hard cast refractory. In this example, however, we'll use hard cast refractory, which is over the tubes. And that's an important distinction between the two furnaces. In the next method, refuse-derived fuel, RDF, you can see from the diagram on figure 26 of page 24 in your textbook that the garbage passes through a great deal many preparation stages before it enters into the boiler. So starting at the left-hand side of the diagram, you can see that the garbage is dumped off onto the tipping floor, where it will then be picked up and dropped into a trommel screen. A trommel screen is basically a fancy term for a large sieve. Very small pieces of garbage will pass through the trommel screen and then pass down to the disc screen. Even smaller pieces will then pass through the disc screen and then pass out as residue and will then be dumped in a landfill. The large pieces that did not pass through the trommel screen, these will now pass on and go underneath a magnetic separator that will then pick out any large metallic ferrous metals and then be taken to ferrous loadout for metal recycling. And they'll go off to produce things like cast irons and steels. The remainder will then pass into a shredder. The shredder is now going to shred the garbage into uniform size pieces and will now meet back up with the garbage pieces that passed over the disc screen at the bottom of our diagram. For here, it will pass through another magnetic separator where any small metallic particles that passed over the disc screen will be picked up and taken to ferrous loadout. Then the remainder will pass down to prepared fuel storage floor. And from here, it's where it's then going to be loaded into the boiler's hopper and it will then be burned. Now the beauty of this is, of course, is that our garbage now is in more uniform pieces as it's been completely shredded. So we'll get a much more thorough burn as we can get better air and fuel mixing, thereby promoting our 3 T's of time, temperature and turbulence, and of course enough air. Ash is removed as before, and the boiler here this time you'll see doesn't necessarily have to be a reciprocating grate furnace. It can typically be a travelling grate furnace, with this particular one with the ash residue being removed from the front of the furnace. Okay, let's talk about the reason then why the bottom 1/3 of these furnaces is lined with refractory. Well, waste and garbage, it's very varied in terms of its composition because people chuck away almost anything. So the waste products themselves can contain very corrosive combustion products once they're released and they're combusted as a gas. Now the ones of note here for us are sulfur, vanadium and chlorine. And all three of these, when they're on the furnace side of our boiler, they can cause corrosion to our tubes. And that can be a real problem. In specific, it is susceptible to chloride corrosion, which we discussed back in 3A1, which is a form of stress corrosion cracking, which involves chlorides, oxygen, and the tubes under a tensile load. Now, of course, like any good corrosion, the higher the temperature, the higher the corrosion rate. And we're talking typically temperatures circa 1650 degrees at the bottom of our furnace where our waste products are being combusted. So to protect the tubes against this type of corrosion, we're going to line the tubes, which is where we'll coat them, with a refractory lining. Now, in addition, the remaining tubes that are not covered with refractory lining are going to be referred to as bimetal tubes, which will also be designed to resist these corrosive products. The reason why only the bottom 1/3 of the furnace is lined with refractory is just simply due to this is the area of the most corrosion, and also we couldn't go ahead and line the entire boiler with refractory as it would be far too heavy and far too costly as an exercise. The rest of the boiler doesn't really need it, and that's where these alloy tubes called Inconel come in. Okay, so let's talk about these then. So in the bottom 1/3 of our furnace, you can see on the diagram on figure 27 of your textbook that the tubes have these pin studs on them. These studs allow the silicon carbide refractory to be plastered onto the tubes, as you can see in the bottom half of the diagram on the right of my slide. So those studs just literally give the refractory something to attach to. Silicon carbide refractory is very hard wearing and will also resist these corrosive products that's in the gas that's released by our process of combustion. The remainder of our tubes are going to be referred to as Inconel tubes. And Inconel is one of these trademark terms for a super metal alloy. And the alloy itself is made from nickel and chromium. And you might remember from 3A1 that nickel and chromium elements are fantastic at resisting corrosion. And if we go any more than 12% chromium, it is stainless steel. But remember, with regards to ASME Section 1, we're not allowed to use austenitic steels in any areas of the boiler that are normally wetted. Because again, stainless steel, i.e. austenitic steels, they're susceptible to chloride corrosion cracking. Okay, so on diagram figure 28, we've got here a typical layout of a plant that is using the mass burning technique. And we can see it's a mass burning technique as the garbage is being dumped into that refuse pit, and then you can see that clam bucket there about to pick up the garbage to drop it into the hopper, which will then go down and feed the boiler. The remainder of the plant then is going to be flue gas treatment, where the gas is going to be scrubbed and then it will pass through a baghouse filter to limit the amount of fly ash that's going to be putting out into the atmosphere. You can also find things like electrostatic precipitators in this area, which will remove up to 99% of all fly ash. Okay, here is a much better look at what's going on inside that furnace where we mentioned a reciprocating grate. Now, the easiest way to visualize one of these, if you haven't seen one, is if you take a look at the bottom of the diagram, you can see that it looks like a staircase basically, as it is a series of steps. Each one of those steps is able to go up and down, i.e. reciprocate. So what occurs is, when the refuse comes down the refuse inlet and is then charged by the charging ram, which is just basically a big hydraulic ram that pushes the garbage onto the reciprocating grates, as the steps go up and down, the garbage is walked down the furnace left to right. By the time it gets all the way to the bottom right of our diagram here at the base of our furnace, it will then be completely combusted and it will then drop off into the ash discharge chute that will then go down and be taken out for collection and dumped into landfill. We can also see that the furnace has a furnace arch where there are over air ports or over fire air ports. This is just going to inject more air to improve and complete the combustion process. We can also see here that further up the furnace we have auxiliary input burners that are also going to help in those times when we require increased steam production and also when we're starting up the furnace. You can also see that the water walls, i.e. the furnace walls, line the furnace. And the interesting thing, like a lot of coal furnaces is with the furnace arch here, located in this area and this area, this helps to redirect the heat from the furnace on the reciprocating grate back on the garbage. And this, of course, will help to increase our complete combustion, heat the fuel, and also completely combust it by the time it gets to that bottom ash discharge. Okay, so that's really it, I suppose, for Objective 5. A pretty quick, pretty straightforward objective if you just give it a quick read. So, as always, let's take a quick look at the types of questions that we could see from this particular objective. So first, something refractory is used to cover the water tubes in a refuse boiler to protect them against corrosion. Is that magnesium, silicon carbide, Inconel, or aluminum sulfate refractory? Well, hopefully you remember this one, and this is a very common question. It is silicon carbide refractory, which is a very hard-wearing refractory to resist those corrosive products of the gases that are going to be released. And as an example, chlorine as a gas is released from things like plastics, such as polyvinyl chloride. When the chlorides are released, they break down into chlorine gas, and that can be very corrosive. Next, if only large non-combustible elements are removed from refuse, what kind of burning method is this? Is this refuse-derived fuel, RDF? Is it mass burning? Is it cogeneration? Or is it prepared fuel burning, PFB? Well, if we're only removing large combustible elements and pretty much nothing else, then this is the mass burning technique. That's pretty much all mass burning does. Removes large non-combustible elements, like ferrous metals, remove them, and the rest of the garbage goes in as is. Next one. Inconel is an alloy of what? Is it chromium and cobalt, silicon and cobalt, carbon and molybdenum, or nickel and chromium? Another classic question, this one, that you see very frequently for this objective. Inconel is an alloy of nickel and chromium. And again, nickel and chromium, very good at resisting corrosive products. Next one. When refuse is burned, it produces corrosive gases. These gases are mainly due to the something in the plastics. Is that chlorides, vanadium, potassium, or sulfur? Well, specifically in the plastics, we're talking the chlorides. And a lot of plastics are PVC, and polyvinyl chlorides is what breaks down into chlorine gas. Sulfur and vanadium, they come from other types of garbage as well, and they can be equally as corrosive. But asking specifically about the plastics, we're talking here the chlorides. And again, just think PVC, polyvinyl chloride. For the next one, auxiliary burners in a mass refuse burning boiler. Do they ignite the refuse? Do they redirect the heat from the furnace arch? Do they aid in complete combustion? Or do they burn pulverized coal during high load demands? Well, as we mentioned earlier, these are going to aid in the complete combustion process, also aid when we require higher steam demands, and they can also be started for when we start the boiler up to again assist in complete combustion while the furnace is coming up to temperature. The same really in any type of furnace is going to be the answer for this question. Okay, so that's it for Objective 5. A fairly straightforward one. Give it a quick read. There's not a lot there to take in, but again, it's important nonetheless. And then when you're ready, come back and see me for the last objective in this chapter, and we'll check out Objective 6, where we'll take a look at some different type of furnace designs for waste heat and biomass boilers. So, take care. See you back soon.